Do you blame Dr. Murray for your brother's death? Yes, I do. He was the one administering the drug, from what I know. That was Janet Jackson's direct, unwavering response, one that echoed through every tabloid, every news channel, and every courtroom sketch in 2011. And for most of the world, that was it. Case closed. Dr. Conrad Murray, Michael Jackson's personal physician, had been found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, convicted of giving the King of Pop a fatal dose of propofol, a surgical-grade anesthetic meant for operating rooms, not bedrooms. He was sentenced to 4 years, served 2, and walked away with a legacy tainted by the death of the world's most iconic entertainer. But was it really that simple? Even from the very beginning, the details surrounding MJ's death didn't add up. Murray pleaded not guilty. He claimed he was set up, that he was just a pawn in a much bigger game. Meanwhile, Michael's family wasn't buying the official story either. Not then, and definitely not now. LaToya Jackson, Michael's sister, didn't mince her words. Conrad Murray is the fall guy. This was planned. They were going to kill him. He told me so, over and over again. And that's the chilling part. Michael Jackson predicted his own death. He told his family that they were coming for him. He said they wanted his catalog, not just his music, but the publishing rights he owned. The Beatles, Elvis, Little Richard. His Sony ATV stake was worth billions. And according to him, powerful people wanted it badly. The night he died, it wasn't just about drugs and negligence. There were security changes, phone line cuts, financial documents shuffled, and new handlers suddenly calling all the shots. In his final days, MJ seemed increasingly paranoid, isolated, and ill. But was he really paranoid? Or just aware of something the public wasn't supposed to know? He was freezing all the time, crying, sitting by the fireplace just to stay warm. Something wasn't right. Paris Jackson, this wasn't a man overdosing in silence. This was someone unraveling under pressure, physical, emotional, and perhaps political. So who really killed Michael Jackson? Was it a reckless doctor who made a terrible decision? Or was it something more calculated, a slow setup that spanned years, possibly even decades? That's what we're about to unpack. From the outside, Michael Jackson's decline looked like a tragic cocktail of addiction, pressure, and eccentric behavior. But if you look closer at what was happening behind the scenes, a different picture begins to emerge. One that feels far more intentional than accidental. Let's go back to what LaToya Jackson revealed. Michael was convinced someone was going to murder him over his music catalog. Why? Because that catalog was worth billions. In 1985, Michael famously outbid Paul McCartney to acquire the publishing rights to the Beatles songs. Later, he merged his stake with Sony's, forming Sony ATV, giving him partial ownership of not only the Beatles songs but also music from Elvis Presley, Taylor Swift, and even Eminem. Michael had become more powerful than the industry wanted him to be. And when he began to question contracts, demand changes, and plan a comeback tour that would place him back on top of the world, people took notice. Enter Dr. Tom, a shadowy figure who became Michael's manager and financial advisor toward the end of his life. According to LaToya, once Tom stepped in, longtime loyal staff were fired. Michael was cut off from close friends and confidants. Phone lines were disconnected, surveillance was increased, he was isolated, and then there was AEG Live, the concert promoter behind the This Is It tour. They stood to make hundreds of millions, but only if Michael performed. Reports show MJ was in no shape to carry out 50 shows. Still, they pushed. Some say they used Tom to control him. Others point to contracts signed while MJ was reportedly sedated or incoherent. Then there's the issue of the will. After Michael's death, a will dated July 7, 2002 surfaced, but several people, including his former lawyer and mother, claimed they were with Michael in New York that day, not in Los Angeles where the will was supposedly signed. Despite this, the will was accepted, and a group of executors took control of his estate. LaToya was explicit. Michael walked into that house and saw something. He felt it. He knew they were going to do it. And what about his kids? His daughter, Paris Jackson, was just 11 when she lost her father. But years later, she publicly declared what the family had whispered in private. Absolutely, it was a setup. All arrows point to that. She described Michael constantly cold, crying, needing a doctor, then suddenly being cut off from the world. Lights out, phones disconnected, and finally, his last words to her. Stop fighting with your brother. I'm not always going to be here. You're going to have to be the lady and take care of him. Even MJ's own words over the years warned us. In 2002, standing in front of a crowd in London, he called out Sony Music and its then CEO, Tommy Mottola, labeling him a devil and accusing him of being racist, manipulative, and out to destroy black artists. The record companies really do conspire against artists, especially black artists. They steal, they cheat, and they lie. He said he was leaving Sony, and they were angry because he owned half their catalog. He knew too much. He owned too much. And that's when the real trouble began. So let's be real, if Michael Jackson's death was just a case of medical negligence, why did so many powerful players suddenly profit or gain control immediately after he passed? For starters, the Michael Jackson estate became a financial juggernaut. According to Forbes, in the decade following his death, Michael earned more in death than most living artists. His estate brought in over $2 billion through album sales, movie rights, licensing deals, and more. The very same people that MJ had tried to distance himself from, John Branca and John McClane, executors of the suspicious will, were now in control of his entire legacy. And what about AEG Live? While they didn't get the This Is It tour they were banking on, they pivoted fast. Within months, they released the documentary This Is It, compiled from MJ's rehearsal footage. It grossed over $260 million worldwide, the highest-grossing concert documentary ever. Then there's Sony. After his death, MJ's 50% stake in Sony, ATV, which he refused to sell during his lifetime, slowly transferred hands. In 2016, Sony paid $750 million to acquire MJ's portion, a deal the Jackson family was never fully behind. And with that, Sony finally had full control over a catalog that included some of the most valuable songs in the world. Coincidence? Or did someone play the long game? Now, let's not ignore the alleged secret societies. The Illuminati theory is one that many find extreme, but here's the thing. MJ himself believed he was being targeted. His 1,991 song They Don't Care About Us and the Black or White video had clear anti-establishment themes. Many say these were signs of rebellion against the so-called elite. And just like Tupac and Prince, Michael spoke too much, owned too much, and wanted out. History shows us when powerful black entertainers try to take ownership of their work and reject exploitation, something always happens. There's also the disturbing trend of discrediting MJ before and after death. The child abuse allegations, whether proven or not, were enough to cloud his legacy and paint him as unstable. When the first trial failed to convict him, some argue the next plan was his removal. And if that sounds like a conspiracy, consider this. Just weeks after his death, his entire image was rebranded. From troubled recluse to global pop legend. Suddenly, his face was everywhere again. Posters, merch, radio, documentaries. Dead, he was more profitable and manageable than alive. Meanwhile, Dr. Conrad Murray became the fall guy. Convicted of involuntary manslaughter, he served just 2 years of a 4-year sentence. Since then, he's insisted he was set up and scapegoated, that he was just one piece in a much bigger puzzle. So, who are the suspects? Sony Music, for obvious financial gain. Estate executors who gained total control posthumously. AEG Live, for monetizing MJ's rehearsal footage and image. Dr. Tome Tome, for isolating MJ in his final days. Possibly even members of the Jackson inner circle, who either knew or looked the other way. And if you ask Paris Jackson, she's still playing the chess game. Quietly, strategically, hoping one day to reveal the truth. At the end of the day, too many signs point to a coordinated effort, whether corporate, personal, or sinister, to end Michael Jackson's life when it was most convenient. Was it just about money, or was there more? Now it's your turn. What do you believe really happened? Who do you think stood the most to gain from MJ's death? Drop your thoughts below.